Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It's Friday, September 19th, 2 o'clock p.m. And guess we had to get into it. You wouldn't let it go. So we had to step in as adults and tell you the Jews didn't do it, any of it. And I know it's going to upset a lot of people out there for me to say that the Charlie Kirk assassination was not backed by the Mossad or the Freemasons or the Anunnaki or any of the other organizations that you have been told by any number of people out there that were the guilty parties. It is simply, and it's not simple. If you've seen some of our other videos and our other documentation, the outgrowth of socialist terror since the 70s, which was the Weather Underground and the Red Army faction, has morphed throughout Western Europe and the United States to become an even greater danger than it ever was, coupling itself with organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood. It is a wide ranging most of the time, autonomous operation with no real key people to kill. When you are out there on your Jew kick, remember the Israelis are killing the heads of Hamas and Hezbollah. They're killing the heads of organizations that are dealing directly with them. I am not agreeing or disagreeing with them before I have to hear about myself because you're already turning your little Jew hater ears off. But if you are somebody who admired Charlie Kirk, or more importantly to me, supported the president of the United States, Donald Trump, you will listen to what is occurring because it affects you specifically as an American and an American voter. You would always say to yourself, all these people, they're opposition, they're this, they're that, or the other thing. If we were to put the Venn diagram together, Chris Hedges, Mr. Blumenthal, Jimmy Dore, Fucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes. What do they all have in common? They're all trying to bring down Donald Trump. They are there to sabotage the United States relationship with the Israelis. They are there to sabotage the Abraham Accords, which actually forms a much more stable Middle East because it's all Arabs. The Arab countries, except for Israel and Yemen, and I'm sorry, except for Iran and Yemen, and maybe one other one, are involved. This seeing Jews under the bed sheets all the time stuff is 5-year-old shit. Are they out there? Yeah. Does Mossad spy on us? Of course they do. We spy on them. We spy on lots of people. They spy on lots of people. Would they have gotten involved in a half-ass shoot 'em up like they had out there in Utah? These are the people that brought you the beeper bomb, right? Why would they do something as high profile as this, which would automatically galvanize people against them? Is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Now, there are stupider things. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard from guys that supposedly have CIA, DIA, and everybody else working for them in their back room. What a bunch of bullshit. It cheapens the MAGA movement. It cheapens Charlie Kirk's legacy. And you should just feel that you're being taken advantage of. I'm only hope that most of you that are into that feel that you're being taken advantage of and not that you're actually this crazy with this stuff. You can hate Jews all you want, but they were not involved in this Charlie Kirk. The individual ones, because the socialists have a lot of them. The right wing has a few because they have changed the terminology. Once again, look at one of our other videos. The term historically Jewish is now a thing. I'm not Jewish. I'm historically Jewish, which means everybody in my family was Jewish, but I don't feel Jewish. I don't mean me. I mean, this is somebody telling you that story. So I'm a little whatever with this guy. So let's just go through it because I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing people that I think are used to think we're smart enough to know better. But it works so well because, there's a big anti-Semitic block in the black community. It is. There's a big anti-Semitic block in the white community in the United States. There's a big anti-Semitic block in Europe. It just dovetails so nicely because we don't blame the gypsies for anything anymore. That's the problem, right? So let's get down to it and see what it is that we're talking about here because these people are not out there holding Kirk's bloody shirt. They are there positioning themselves to A, try to knock out the last of the legs of the Trump administration in his first year, and secondly, position themselves as not just gatekeepers, but kingmakers for future administrations, all based on the fact that Donald Trump broke through the barriers for everybody, and then Charlie Kirk's organization gathering up the youth and changing their minds. Two very big things, a 1-2 punch against socialism. But why not benefit from it financially and politically is what these people are going to tell you, right? Charlie Kirk's assassination was a shock, okay? That rippled across the American political world. Within hours, these ripples turned into a torrent, but not just of grief. Hate is always better than grief, they'll tell you, right? We saw a flood of conspiracies and a shocking rise in anti-Semitic slander because we knew that the Jews or Israel were responsible for his death. Out of nowhere, we knew this, right? Some of these claims have come from the far left and some from the far right, and some from very high profile commentators who built their careers sucking the tit of the MAGA ecosystem until they feel that they are now fully actualized and are going to come out to do battle against daddy. Today, we're going to talk about how these influencers, often without any formal coordination, and that is the problem these days for those of you who want somebody to be out there at the end, Mr. Burns, at the end of a big table, and you catch them and you make them do what you want. They don't happen like that anymore. It's intersectionality to some extent, similar mindsets, and it was put into play, and now we have to deal with it. So without any formal coordination, they're acting in tandem to weaponize this tragedy, to undermine the Israeli-U.S. alliance, to discredit the Abraham Accords, and set themselves up, as I said, as kingmakers in the fights ahead. And we're going to show you evidence and not rumor and not I talked to Charlie Kirk's cousin 3 weeks ago, bullshit, none of that. Plain facts you can't ignore. Independent reporters and monitoring groups documented thousands of social posts blaming Israel or the Jews for Kirk's death. Expert outlets have documented foreign state actors and amplifying those false narratives, and Israel's prime minister publicly rejected the slander as dangerous and baseless. By the way, that's how that stuff works. The Anti-Defamation League is doing some monitoring as well, but once again, you're going to say, well, those are Jews. Widespread posts tying the killing to Israel. Disinformation amplification, the Russians, the Chinese, and Iranian-linked outlets amplified false narratives. This will all be written in the documents that are at www.southflorida.com with the attributions, right? Not, I talked to my cousin and he told me this shit. Netanyahu and Jewish organizations publicly rebutted the claims as baseless slander. They are using the fact that Netanyahu realized he had to get out in front of this Jew killing stuff and that he's done it twice. And Owens has picked up on it and said, well, if he was innocent, why did he say it? Well, he said it because thousands of internet outlets have been saying the Jews are killing Charlie Kirk. And he's trying to stop further bloodshed of people going out and murdering Jewish people or Israelis. I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? So here are some direct, egregious examples that show you the shape of the problem. Okay, I'm going to give you 3. Open conspiracy accusations. Influencers explicitly suggested Israeli or Jewish responsibility. For example, Jackson Hinkle, if you know Jackson Hinkle, posted insinuations tying Kirk's relationship with Israeli actors to his death. We have a soft insinuation from high-profile figures. Some commentators, like Candace Owens, advanced unverified narratives about pressure on Kirk related to his Israel stance. Those insinuations, even when not literal accusations, fed or are feeding a conspiratorial ecosystem. She's been on a Jew kick for a while. I don't know if it was because she had a problem with Shapiro or what it was, but if you haven't seen her show, she's sort of flailing around. The mass meme hashtag amplification is monitoring groups have reported over 10,000 posts on major platforms tying the assassination to Israel or Jews, a scale that converts fringe libel into a trending content. Okay. This is majorly done. This is not somebody sitting in their room looking at their television. You know, as we used to say with the Klan, it's not three guys in a trailer yelling the N-word at the TV. These are a bunch of small groups, and in some cases, even these influencers, people themselves, because they'll say, well, you know, I'm telling you this, feel free to use my image and go forth, young man, and prosper. Okay. Now, the core claim, how can left and right influencers act in tandem without planned meetings or shared chat groups? Here are 5 mechanisms that we would say you could use, but we don't play in that pool. You have what's called common grievance framing. These are all terms you're going to want to know because they've been used against you for the last 6 years. Common grievance framing is different ideological groups can reach similar conclusions from different premises. Leftists who see Israel as a malign actor, right-wing populists who see foreign influence and elites, both feed from the same slur, even though the motives are different. Okay? The left and right are both pushing the same accusation right now that the Jews and or Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They haven't gotten to the point where they said what we should do about it because they haven't gotten enough information back feedback-wise. The first person who makes that move and makes a kill or destroys a synagogue or does whatever, you will start to see what's going down. Number 2 is called emotional viral architecture. Tragedy plus misery equals viral video. Platforms reward outrage and certainty. Identical repeated narratives spread faster than cautious rebuttals. What I'm doing now will be a drop of piss in a gigantic urinal by the end of the day. ADL tracking shows rapid spread before fact checks catch up. You don't have to do it. What's done these days is I will do a video that says, you know, the Jews just had a gigantic party celebrating the killing of Charlie Kirk. I will then put a video out 35 minutes later saying, but much more toned down. Well, we weren't really sure about what they were dancing about, but we thought they were dancing about killing Charlie Kirk. But here it was a bar mitzvah, so that's why they were dancing. I've made my apologies, mea culpa, but it doesn't matter because the damage was already done on purpose. Okay, this is how this works. This is not a game. This is a tactic. It is an actual tried and true tactic. All right. Narrative, number 3, narrative contagion via shared media infrastructure. Influencers often consume the same hot clips, cable sound bites, and viral memes. A claim that starts on one side of the aisle gets picked, reshaped, and amplified on the other because it's emotionally useful to both. See any number of memes that are out there now where you see the picture and it looks the same, and it's this time, Charlie Kirk was always a good example. See Charlie Kirk destroy this leftist. And the other one is leftist stumps Charlie Kirk, blah, blah, blah. Same video, taken maybe 30 seconds further along where maybe Charlie's smoking a cigarette, drinking, whatever he's doing. So then they've stumped him, right? Not true. Yet another scamola. The fourth one, foreign and state amplification. And this you can't help. This is hostile actors. This is Russia, Iran, and China. Why would they be interested? Oh, I don't know. Donald Trump, U.S.-Israel alliance, Abraham Accords. If Abraham goes through, Russia, Iran, and China are really up the pipe. Okay? These groups inject or boost content that widens domestic schisms. Their amplification makes the story appear broader and more credible than it is. If this show ends up in Paris, ends up here, ends up in Russia, ends up in China on TikTok, you're saying, oh my God, everybody knows it's true, but me, I'm the asshole who doesn't not want to deal with the Jews, right? Wrong. It's how you do it. It's how the game is played. And more importantly, number 5, my favorite, the kingmaker incentive. These influencers are building audience by being the first to expose or the toughest guy to call out elites. They are destabilizing a major alliance, which is the U.S.-Israel alliance, and it raises their profile among certain audiences. Maybe somebody on Trump's staff somewhere hears about something. Laura Loomer is an example of this. We did a whole psychological evaluation of Laura Loomer. She is in this mindset, but she is not one of these people playing this Charlie Kirk Jew hate thing. All right. So you'll see major commentators and podcasters weighing in, and you'll see spikes in engagement. Okay. And then, of course, what this does politically is, why do we care if the narrative sticks? It accomplishes 3 things for these influencers. 1, it weakens the public case for the Abraham Accords, for Donald Trump's presidency, and the Israel-U.S. relationship. It also, on its own, demeans and trivializes the message of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, which is another collateral damage issue that is being done here, because there are many of these people, especially some of the names that I mentioned, who would be happy to supplant Charlie as the largest youth organization in the United States. Almost everybody that I mentioned there would take that job, meaning Tucker, meaning the fuck her name is, all of them, Fuentes, all those people, because they can see the guilt coming in, right? So secondly, it would create a narrative cleft inside of the MAGA movement, which pushes the Trump supporters to question his Israeli ties. And then the ones that are fair weather friends, of course, will be jumping ship left, right, and center. Also a benefit to Muslim Brotherhood. Also a benefit to any of the other terror organizations we're dealing with still. And number 3, it elevates the influencers themselves as, once again, the term we love, arbiters of truth, the kingmakers. We're seeing early signs of 1 and 2 in the fractured MAGA reactions and the spike of Israel blaming posts. And you'll see that, and that was a direct quote from Axios, not a big friend of President Trump, I would say. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a checklist here for the listeners. You can write it down, do whatever you want. I'll try to put it in the, I'll cut it out. I'll put it in the description section. This is part of the toolkit, like we had said before, about dealing with the wokeness. Okay, if you want to spot this operation in time, use this checklist. Is the claim repeated with identical phrasing across multiple accounts? That usually is a sign of possible coordination. Does the influencer cite no credible evidence and rely on insinuation? That's a red flag. I heard about this. Well, we've all heard this. Well, you know this to be true. What is that, right? A friend of Charlie Kirk's told me this. He was afraid of Jews. He would walk on the other side of the street to stay away from them, says one person close to the group. These are all bullshit, nonsense, no credible evidence, and insinuation. It's a red flag. Is the claim being boosted by accounts with foreign or bot-like patterns? You can use some tracking tools. You can check that yourself. Are mainstream outlets correcting the story later? No, right? But the original slur has already been shared widely. Yes. Okay. When you were talking about the stuff where we are getting the benefit this time of being able to cancel culture people who are happy for the death of Kirk, there's nothing wrong with that. They started that war and we're continuing it. It's about time. Jimmy Kimmel's not funny anyway, right? He is a prime example of a person who gave an entirely fanciful narrative to the assassination story, that the shooter was a right-wing lunatic instead of a left-wing lunatic. Okay? That's what we're saying. All right? So a good start for tracking, if you were going to do this, is you look at something like the ADL's monitoring, which is the Anti-Defamation League, the Antisemitism Research Center brief, and there's a lot of major outlet fact checks. I would be a little bit, don't go too heavy on the stuff that's coming from anti-Semitism because, as you know, Southern Poverty Law Center, which is the biggest piece of garbage out there, pretends that they are the defenders of Judaism, whereas they are chopping away at the Israeli state and at Jewish people's rights every single effing day, right? Big cause of what the problem is out there right now. So I got a quick ethics warning for you. We're almost done. You got to call these claims what they are. They're basics, they're baseless slander. It's anti-Semitic libel, but you want to avoid the exact hateful phrasing verbatim. So as I'm saying what I'm saying, I am not giving you 100% of what has been said out there, but I will make light of that term. I'm like, are you out hating the Jews yet? Have you hated the Jews today? Which is what these people are seriously saying to you. Seriously, in their mind, needing you to say, you know, I really haven't hated enough Jews today, Frank. There's something wrong with me. Maybe it's my diet. Maybe I need to eat more pork, right? This is what is being conditioned into your little noggin. This is how it works. This is how it's done. Okay? So this isn't just a media fight. It's a civic fight. It is to show you what polite, I wouldn't even say polite society, ethical society. You're going to say, why would you even get involved in that? Preserving the facts and the alliances that matter, you know, archive the proof. Where is it? Flag the anti-Semitic organizations. Say the guy's a Jew hater if he's a Jew hater. I'm not saying you have to go out and love everybody, but you don't go out and do this kind of stuff. And I've had to say it to people I see in my everyday life. I was like, look, I'll deal with it because that's your right to say. But we're in a public place, and I don't want people thinking that that's my story when it's your story. You could get fired. I'm not going to get fired. I'm a fucking customer, right? But I don't need somebody giving me shit about it because I sat there and allowed you to do it. But I will sit there and allow people to do it. And in some cases, if you've ever seen me at it, I will say to them, look, I know you want to say the N-word. I'll hold your hands right here in public. I will hold your hands and I will say it with you on the count of three. 1, 2, 3, the N-word. And we can say the same thing with the Jews. 1, 2, 3, the Jews, right? That's making it silly. That's what you have to do because you can't break through on some occasions. This is the one thing I did, one of the many things I learned from, I can't even say his name. But, so anyway, that's where we stand. This operation that you are seeing is the master plan now of these predatory hyenas that they will be able to slip in. Once again, as we complain about unelected leaders, here are more unelected leaders. People who did not have the personal gravitas to develop a nationwide, let alone European-wide youth organization and think they're going to slip in there and push the widow out and do this and that and the other thing and crater this operation or twist it to their own goals based on what? A lie? Based on a racist mistruth or miscounting of a story? Yeah, and they're pretty sure they can get away with it. So you do what you want to do. Check out our regular site. We'll have the whole thing on how this works. It's useful to see how most socialist paperwork, psyops, whatever you want to call it, is done. They were the masters. They're still the masters. You just have to see it. You have to try to stay out of the net. So on that note, have a good day. Have a good weekend. And I'll talk to you later on.